back again. Had a lot of things going on in my life. Had a lot of surgeries, different things. I'm recovering. I got to get back to the grindstone here a little bit. I got other videos that are in the works and that they are coming. Going back, was talking to a friend of mine, and my connection to all this is a guy by the name of Carl Graves. And Carl was an artist that worked for that company. Carl saw Deadpool in his Raw. He seen the work that I sent to Marvel. And that was sometime in January of '87. Going back to that, I find it hard that you have all these creators on a character and you think that you're going to get by ripping me off. I'm going to tell people about you, and I'm going to keep doing these videos. Some people say, well, you're just kicking and screaming. You're damn right. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to bring the light on these cockroaches. I'm going to tell you another thing about Liefeld that I know. And this is, he went to work. Keep in mind, Liefeld went to work for Marvel in March of 1987. Now, I was speaking to Carl Graves prior to January of '87, and I'm going back to, I don't know why I keep thinking of X-Men, not X-Men, New Mutants number 53. I don't know why that book's sticking in my head. But I think Cable was around back then because my friend had New Mutants number 53. He collected the book, and the book didn't have any interest in me personally. It kind of fell flat in places, and no offense to the people that wrote that, but under the same token, Carl said to me, he goes, you know who's coming up as a character? And we started talking about Cable. Now, here's a guy that didn't work for that company yet, but was on his way to that company. And we started talking about Cable, and I said, you know what? Is it possible that if I could create a character to have him tag along, a really cool character, and created the basis of X-Force, I could tag these people in there with my characters and some of Marvel's characters, and a lot of the basis of the original X-Force team, like Cannonball and Richter and Skids and all those characters. I wanted to bring them in. I wanted to bring Boom Boom in as a character. And these are characters we had discussed in a different mall. As a mall rat, I would show up and I would talk to these guys. You know, Brian and Carl, I would talk to them, and we would get into these different characters. And a lot of Deadpool that you don't know about. Like, Deadpool's that annoying friend with Spider-Man, all based on a conversation I had with Carl. Me and Carl talked about, dude, who's Spider-Man have as a friend? I think it was like Johnny Storm, Johnny Blaze, and a handful of others. But he never hung out with them. Never hung out with them. And I wanted Deadpool to be that annoying friend. The guy that just shows up all the time and bugs you. And everybody has that friend. He's just like, you know, he's a friend, but he shows up constantly to hang out. You know, and that was one of the thoughts I had for Deadpool. I wanted to inject him into the Spider-Man. I wanted to cross him over with the Avengers. Found out he became an Avenger, which is cool. So you guys are following my my little trail of breadcrumbs that I left for you. The Black Panther and Captain America. And I'm going to close this gap for you. Okay? They never go into detail about why Captain America has respect for Deadpool. The reason why Captain America has respect for Deadpool is because he knows that he's Wade Wilson. He knows his identity. Wade Wilson wasn't always Deadpool. He was a spy and an assassin before that. He was a merc. They don't have all that backstory because it's all cloudy to the people at Marvel. They have deadlines and stuff, and they really can't introspectively look at certain characters. They need some writers like Fabian, who doesn't know everything, to why that character is liked. You know? Now, the story is, and Black Panther's book sales were plummeting back then. Me and Carl talked about it. Carl was a black guy, and he had a more centered view on that stuff than I did. I didn't read any Black Panther, didn't know nothing about it. He said to me, I said, how do you draw black people? I don't know how to draw black people, Carl. And he says, cheekbones. Give him cheekbones. You know, that was his thing. And I said, cool, you know, that's really cool. And he goes, one of the characters they don't do enough with, in my opinion, is Black Panther. So I had it in my head back then that it was going to be my goal to write that. To have this character interject with Deadpool, or Wade Wilson that is, and it would be this origin story to how he tied in with Cap. And what that story is, Marvel never did, but I'm going to tell you guys because some of you guys are watching this. But at the time, I read stories about children mining for diamonds and rare metals in Africa. And the story I wanted to have was the Black Panther's country had an adamantium or a vibranium mine, and there was children in there mining for stuff, and they were dying and living under squalid conditions. And the United States government sends a guy like Wade Wilson over to investigate. And what he uncovers is basically a mine where they're getting this adamantium from, and the Black Panther gets involved and goes to stop it. And when Captain America shows up, because they send him there, he runs into another super baddie, and they get into it. And in the course of holding off 3,000 armed men that were running it, Cap goes in there, cleans house. Black Panther goes in, cleans house. And it comes down to finally fighting off a bunch of them with Wade Wilson, who gets on a .50 caliber machine gun and holds them down while Cap and Black Panther gets away with the kids. It's basically a suicide mission. Keep in mind, Wade Wilson isn't Deadpool yet. Anyway, he winds up getting a broken arm and a broken leg, and he winds up crawling to safety amongst dead bodies. That is the story there for why Cap has respect for him. Cap tries to tell him to, hey, come on, you can leave with us, and Wade decides to, no, I'll stay and fight. Later on, as I initially wanted to write the story, which is far more interesting than, Cap knows he's a super soldier. You know, what I wanted to write, which was more interesting in my opinion, was that, Cap turns around and he says, hey, whatever happened to that guy? Did he get a good burial? And no, he's alive. No, he made it out. These are the stories that soldiers talk about. But you always get a spin from them guys. They're always running a political agenda. They don't tell an interesting story. This is what sells books, people. My story, okay, my X-Force story, my plot work from 1 to 13. I sold 5 million books, Rob. Your artwork had a lot to do with it. I can give you credit for that. I'm not going to take that away from you. I'm not necessarily a fan of your art, but under the same token, it was a combination of 3 things. I didn't write the dialogue in those books, but I did plot out the Juggernaut and Tom Cassidy, things that me and Carl talked about back in the day that would make those books grabbable. Spider-Man showing up. The Sideways artwork was nice, don't get me wrong, but under the same token, you didn't plot that out or scheme that out. Same way with Sauron and the Savage Land. All that stuff that I wrote down was meant to cross those books over. Had nothing to do with you plotting them. That was you plagiarizing my work. And I'm pretty sure you didn't create Cable because we were talking about it way before you worked for that company. So any of you watching this stuff, I'm talking about stuff that was behind the scenes. Same way where he draws a book. It took them a good 3-4 months before that book came out. It was a lot of drawing and a lot of artwork at the time. So, stay tuned, guys. There's going to be more videos coming. Interesting ones, too. I figured I'd drop that on you as if you don't know. But look up Carl Graves as an artist. I think he did a few covers. 88 or so, maybe. 80, Keep in mind, though, but they would have been done 3 months before the date of the actual book. So, Until then, see you soon.